Underneath every blooming rose, there are more living organisms in a single teaspoon of soil than there are humans on Earth, and every one of them is either helping your rose or hurting it. Most gardeners feed the plant and never think about what's actually running the show underneath it. Two identical roses, same variety, same sun, same water, can perform completely differently, and the difference is often invisible, 6 inches below the surface. Today, I'm taking you underground into the living system that decides whether your rose survives or truly thrives. Let's get into it. The teaspoon reality. 1 teaspoon of healthy garden soil holds billions of bacteria, several miles of fungal threads stretched out end to end, thousands of protozoa, and dozens of beneficial nematodes. An entire hidden ecosystem smaller than your fingertip. This whole community has a name: the soil food web. It isn't background scenery for your rose, it's the actual engine that unlocks nutrients, builds soil structure, and fights off disease before it ever reaches the plant. And the word web is doing real work in that name. This isn't a list of separate organisms each doing their own thing. It's a chain, where each level eats the level below it and releases something the plant can use in the process. Break one link, and the links above and below it suffer too. That's the single most important idea in this entire video. You are not feeding a rose. You are feeding a system, and the system feeds the rose. Once that clicks, a lot of confusing gardening advice suddenly makes sense. Bacteria. Bacteria are the workhorses. They break down dead leaves, old mulch, and organic matter, and in the process convert nitrogen locked inside that material into forms your rose can actually absorb through its roots. Without them, the nitrogen in a fallen leaf would simply sit there, chemically locked up and useless to your plant. Bacteria are the ones holding the key. They cluster thickest right around the root zone, in a region called the rhizosphere because the plant actively feeds them, leaking out sugars through its roots to attract exactly the bacteria it needs most. It's a trade the plant initiates, not a coincidence of proximity. Think about what that actually means. Your rose is spending its own hard-earned photosynthetic sugar to recruit a microbial workforce. It wouldn't do that unless the return was worth it. Bacteria do one more thing most gardeners never hear about. As they move and multiply, they secrete sticky substances that glue tiny soil particles together into small crumbs. Those crumbs are what create the pore spaces that hold air and water in the root zone. So bacterial activity isn't just feeding your rose, it's physically building the structure of the soil your rose lives in. Compacted, lifeless soil isn't only missing nutrients, it's missing the builders. Fungi. Fungi do something bacteria can't. They build a highway system. Thin fungal threads called hyphae spread far beyond what the rose's own roots could ever reach, pulling in water and minerals, especially phosphorus from soil the plant couldn't access on its own. Phosphorus is worth pausing on because it's notoriously immobile in soil. It binds tightly to soil particles and barely moves. A root has to essentially grow to the phosphorus. Fungal threads, being far finer than any root, reach it instead and ferry it back. In exchange, the rose pays them in sugar, produced through photosynthesis up in the leaves and sent straight down to the roots. It's a direct trade. Extended reach for the plant, fuel for the fungus. Some estimates suggest a plant may send a significant share of everything it produces down into this underground economy. That's not waste. That's the plant buying access to a root system many times larger than the one it could build alone. And this is exactly why heavy, repeated tilling sets a rose bed back. Those fungal networks are physically fragile. Running a tiller through established soil shreds them, and rebuilding takes seasons, not weeks. It's also why roses in living, undisturbed soil handle drought and nutrient gaps so much better than roses in bare, repeatedly worked dirt. Same plant, same weather, radically different support system underneath. Protozoa. Protozoa are predators. They eat bacteria and lots of them, constantly. And on first hearing, that sounds like bad news. You just spent 2 minutes learning bacteria are the workhorses, and now something's eating them. But here's the useful part, and it's genuinely counterintuitive. Bacteria hold far more nitrogen in their bodies than they actually need. When a protozoan eats one, it uses the carbon and releases that surplus nitrogen as waste. In a form your rose's roots can absorb almost immediately. Every protozoan in your soil is functionally a tiny nitrogen delivery service, running on autopilot, powered by nothing but predation and appetite. This is the exact moment the web idea earns its name. Bacteria alone don't feed your rows much. They lock nutrients up in their own bodies. It takes something eating them to release it. So a soil rich in bacteria but poor in predators underperforms, and a soil with both humming along delivers a slow, steady nitrogen drip your plant never has to wait on. Predation isn't a problem in this system. Predation is the delivery mechanism. Nematodes, friend or foe? Nematodes get a bad reputation, but most of them are actually on your side. Beneficial nematodes feed on bacteria, fungi, and even pest insect larvae living in the soil, cycling nutrients and controlling pests at the same time. They work the same way protozoa do, eating, then releasing plant-available nitrogen as waste, and some species actively hunt grubs and larvae that would otherwise damage your roots. The harmful minority, like root knot nematodes, attack the rose's roots directly, causing swollen galls and stunted, weak growth above ground. And here's what makes them genuinely tricky. The symptoms up top look almost exactly like a nutrient deficiency or a watering problem. Pale leaves, weak growth, a plant that just won't take off no matter what you feed it. Gardeners often spend a full season treating the wrong thing. The real tell is what's happening at the roots themselves. Smooth, firm, healthy-looking roots mean the beneficial majority is running the show. Knotted, swollen, lumpy roots mean you've got a harmful population to address. If a rose is underperforming for no reason, you can identify above ground. The answer is frequently below it. Earthworms. The visible signal. Earthworms are the one part of this whole system you can actually see with your own eyes, and that makes them enormously useful to you. They tunnel through soil, improving drainage and airflow for roots, and their castings are packed with nutrients in forms plants can use immediately, essentially pre-digested fertilizer delivered exactly where it's needed. But their real value is as an indicator. Earthworms only thrive where there's organic matter to eat, adequate moisture, oxygen, and no chemical hostility, which means they can't be present in numbers unless the invisible layers below them are already working. They're the visible tip of an invisible system. So here's how to use that. Dig a small hole near your rows, roughly 6 inches across and 6 inches deep, and count what you find. Several worms in that small volume is a strong signal the food web underneath is active. One or none in soil that should support them usually means the biology below has been disrupted, often by compaction, drought, heavy synthetic inputs, or repeated tilling. It's the fastest red you can get without a lab. If you want to understand what's actually happening beneath your roses, subscribe. This channel is built on the biology, not the guesswork. Back to it. The soil smell diagnostic. Here's a second test, and it takes 10 seconds with no tools at all. Dig down a few inches near your rows, take a handful of soil, and smell it. Healthy, biologically active soil smells earthy and sweet. That clean, unmistakable after-rain smell. And that specific scent isn't poetic. It's chemical. It comes from a compound called geosmin, produced by beneficial soil bacteria as a byproduct of their normal activity. When you smell it, you are literally smelling the workforce. Its presence is direct evidence the bacteria are alive and working. If instead it smells sour like rotten eggs or ammonia, that's a sign the soil has gone anaerobic, starved of oxygen, usually from compaction or persistent overwatering. In that state, the beneficial aerobic organisms die back, and the ones that replace them produce compounds that can actively damage roots. So a sour smell isn't just an absence of good biology, it's the presence of the wrong kind. Your nose is a genuinely reliable diagnostic tool here. Use it before you reach for a fertilizer bag. How your feeding choices feed this web. Now let's connect this to what you actually do. Organic amendments, aged manure, finished compost, organic mulch aren't just plant food. They're food for this entire underground community, feeding bacteria and fungi slowly and steadily over months as they break down. You're not applying nutrients directly. You're stocking the pantry for the workforce that produces them. Synthetic, fast-release nitrogen works completely differently. It skips the food web almost entirely, delivering a nutrient hit straight to the plant. And the plant does respond quickly, which is exactly why it's so appealing. But it does nothing to feed the biology underneath. And heavy or frequent use over time can suppress fungal networks and push the bacterial balance in the wrong direction. There's a second effect worth knowing. When nitrogen is freely available in the soil, the plant has less reason to spend sugar recruiting microbes. That partnership we talked about quietly weakens. The rose gets fed and gradually stops building the system that would have fed it on its own. Timing matters too. In zone 5 to 6, fall is the ideal moment to feed this system. Once the plant has gone dormant, the amendment breaks down slowly over winter, and the biology is ready to go come spring. In warmer zones 7 to 8, that window runs later into fall. In colder zone 3 to 4, it comes earlier, and in the southern hemisphere, it's your autumn, roughly March into April. Feed the web, and the web feeds your rose, long after you've stopped actively doing anything at all. More organisms in 1 teaspoon than humans on Earth, and every one of them working for or against your rose. Bacteria unlocking nutrients, fungi extending the reach of the roots, predators releasing nitrogen with every meal, and worms telling you whether any of it is working. Now you know which side you're feeding. If this changed how you think about your soil, hit like and subscribe for the rest of this system. Next time, I'll show you how to actually build this food web from scratch in soil that's been stripped of it. Until next time, happy gardening.